Good morning, good afternoon, and or good evening. You are watching Nub's Collection, a YouTube series dedicated to the cataloging and review of every game in my physical media collection. As always, I am your host, Victory Nub, and today we are looking at SimCity, developed and published by Nintendo and Maxis, and released in the United States on August 23rd of 1991. When I say that Maxis developed this game, I should really say that Will Wright developed this game, as he was the independent designer of the original PC version of the game. The version of the game that we're looking at today, obviously, is the Super Nintendo version. It was a co-development project by both Maxis and Nintendo, and it actually features some key changes to the gameplay. Obviously, there is no mouse that you could use at this point in time. I don't think the mouse that they made as part of the Mario Paint, I think is what it was called, was actually available until a little while after the launch of the system. I might be wrong on that, but I'm fairly certain it wasn't available at this point in time. The game actually just uses the regular D-pad of the Super Nintendo controller. The main changes to the game involves an advisor character named Dr. Wright, who is a cheeky little reference to Will Wright. He offers advice throughout the game and warnings whenever issues crop up, like you don't have enough power or there's crime problems throughout the city, other things like that. Other key changes included the ability to build banks that allow you to issue loans to yourself. I think it's about $10,000 each time you do it, and then you have to pay it back before you can get another one. And they actually award you special types of buildings whenever you hit certain milestones, usually tied to the population of the city. At one point in time, there was an NES version of SimCity that was in development alongside the Super Nintendo version of the game. However, it never actually was finished to the point of release, and supposedly only a single known prototype cartridge exists today. The development studio Maxis was founded by Will Wright and Jeff Braun. Basically what happened was Will Wright had been working for Broderbund at that time when he was developing the game, and he took it to his bosses and said, hey, can we try to release this game? And they flat out told him we can't, because this is what they considered at the time a non-traditional game. And when I say that, what I mean is literally there's no goal to this game. You play it and you build your population as much as you can, but there's no finish. There's no end point to the game. You can't actually win it. You just build it until you get tired of the game and quit. So he couldn't get them to let him make the game. He went to a buddy that he met at a party and said, hey, yeah, I'm having trouble getting this game out to the public. Do you have any ideas? And they were like, yeah, let's just make our own company. So they ended up making this company, Maxis. And basically, since he made the game while he was still working for Broderbund, they had to negotiate the sale of the game, and they ended up getting the rights to it, as well as another game that Jeff Braun had been working on. I think he was working on a helicopter sim or something like that, and they negotiated the rights to basically make the game, but then have Broderbund publish, I think, both of the PC versions originally. Yeah, this is one of the most important games in history, really, because it was kind of the game that caused the launch of the sim genre of video games. Thanks in large part to the success of SimCity, Maxis ended up developing a huge number of games that were all under the Sim brand. The list I got here includes Sim Earth, Sim Farm, Sim Town, Streets of Sim City, Sim Copter, Sim Ant, Sim Life, Sim Isle, Sim Tower, Sim Park, Sim Safari, and probably the most famous one today, The Sims, which at one point in time claimed the title to the best-selling PC game of all time. It had at some point sold about 11 million copies, which was a huge number. It's not number one anymore. There's about a dozen other games that have actually sold more games on PC than The Sims, but this was a game, The Sims at least, that was so popular that, everyone and their mother knew it and was playing it. Maxis ended up getting acquired by EA in 1997, and I could talk all day about the trials and tribulations that the studio underwent, especially under EA, but I think instead we're just going to go ahead and play the game. The story setup for this is going to be very brief, and the reason for that is not because it's a small story, but because if I were to read everything that's in the instruction manual for this game, I could literally make the entire episode just reading it. The instruction manual is a whopping 85 pages. That's way too much to read. I would get to about page 20 and go, I'm not doing this anymore. This is stupid. So the story setup, what I'm going to call the story setup, because it literally doesn't have an end point that's really defined except for the first page, is simply called Demo. Lition. That's in parentheses, Lition.
Welcome to SimCity. My name is Dr. Wright, and I will be your guide and teacher as you set out to create bustling cities or sprawling urban wastelands. As mayor, the choice is yours. Let's start by destroying Tokyo.
What?
Studies show that 9 out of 10 new mayors begin their careers with a frenzy of destruction, using monsters, earthquakes, and other disasters to reduce their cities to rubble. After that's out of your system, we'll move on to the real challenge of building a thriving metropolis. If you want to skip the rubble, turn to page 8.
And that's it. That's basically all the story they give you, but the choice that they made while they were designing this game, because I think they realized that even though this was a game that they knew was going to have a very specific audience as a launch title for the Super Nintendo, there were going to be a lot of people who bought it who had never played a simulation game of any kind in their entire lives. They had to kind of do something to juice it up, to make it exciting for potentially kids that were going to be getting this game. And they thought, hey, let's just start out with the most exciting part, which is you can pick a bunch of predetermined scenarios where a natural disaster of some kind happens, and you have to kind of build your way out of it or try to reduce the problem as fast as possible. And that can be very fun, but I think we're actually going to just go ahead and play a brand new city just to see what the game is like. Do I think I'm going to get very far in this initial episode? Probably not. As far as I know, there's a lot of land clearing and laying roads and making sure that you get power to the units that you're going to be setting up before you can really do anything juicy. I don't know. Let's, pick 8. Watch it be almost no different than the one that I just was looking at. That's fine. All right, the name of our city is going to be Nub York. It's got a nice ring to it. Select a game level. We could start with easy, medium, or hard. We're not going to get very far today, so I think we'll just do it on easy. That'll be as hard as it needs to be. Yep. All right, so they really do not do much to give you any help in-game right away. I think you have to actually pick the little symbol at the top that has like the Dr. Wright face on it to find out what they tell you. Good job, your fine city is growing nicely. I haven't done anything. I don't see any problems at the moment, so let's keep up the good work. All he really tells you is what you need to do to get the biggest problem out of the way. So we gotta bulldoze in order to get some land ready. We're gonna start over in the bottom. I think there was water here. Yeah, we'll start in the bottom right. Let's get rid of all this crap here. I'll just clear enough land that I can start building some important infrastructure like a power plant, and I might have to do a rail station. Now, one of the most important distinctions in this game, I'm going to clear that there, between types of transit is the fact that you can choose between rail lines and roads. Now, this is something that you would only find out if you had actually gotten the book. More construction or commercial zones needed. If you had gotten the strategy guide they sent out for the Super Nintendo, if you had a Nintendo Power subscription, one of the little hacks that they tell you in that game is the fact that if you use nothing but rail lines, you'll never have the problem that crops up very quickly with the road system, which is traffic. Basically, if you create too many four-way intersections in the game, it increases the amount of traffic jams, and the people get very upset and start moving out of areas where they occur. The easy way to avoid that is don't build any roads, just do rail lines. Is it a very silly conceit for areas of the world that are very heavily dependent on rail lines to move people around? Absolutely. Is it accurate? I don't know. Not an expert in that regard. All right, let's see. We can do a power plant that is nuclear for 5,000. I think we're going to do that. I think we have to put it by water. There we go. And I don't know what we need to do in order to keep that bad boy running outside of... Oh, here we go. Power lines. Yeah, so we have to build that between any area where there's going to be any kind of commercial, industrial, or residential buildings. One of the things that they would probably warn you about very early on is that you cannot build you can't build residential and industrial units next to each other. That is an absolute no-no. Don't do it. So let's do mass transit. We'll park it right here. Oh no. I think I need to... Okay, so how do I move? Ah! My little train guy. I need to move my cursor and I don't know how to do it. So what? Ah, there we go. I haven't actually played this game since I initially got it, and even though this was a launch title for the Super Nintendo, I did not get it at launch. I got this as a part of a group of games that my mother picked up at a garage sale sometime around the time I was, I believe, in college, and it included this game, Tiny Toon Adventures, and Star Tropics. There might have been another game, but I think those were the three that I remember definitively were the ones that she ended up buying. It was one of those things where she was there, she gave me a call and said, hey, are any of these games of interest to you? And I heard her say SimCity, and I remembered seeing it in this strategy guide that I was just talking about and going, yeah, that sounds interesting. Go ahead and pick that one up. And I think I played it for a little while after she got it, and I was like, this isn't very good. Yeah, I'll be very upfront about this. I don't love sim games all that much. All right, so we built those. And I believe I don't need to make power lines because they are directly adjacent to the power plant. Let's do some commercial buildings. This may be a terrible decision, but we're going to anyway. Because I like to watch the world burn. Haha, look at that. There's already some stuff going on there. I'm going to do a power line to the commercial units. I'm sure the people there are probably desperate for power. There we go. I don't know if you can build anything once you run a power line. I guess we'll find out in a second. Yep, you can. All right, perfect. Oh, it's cold. All right, so the industrial part of the city is already working out pretty good. There's 160 people in my town. Now, what you can do is you can put residential and commercial units next to each other. And in fact, that's a really good way to get the residential sections of a neighborhood to grow more, is to put them next to a commercial unit. All right, so I can set the tax rate. They're putting it at 7% right now. And they are giving me a list of, I guess, what we're going to spend for yearly expenses. Not a whole lot of people, so not much money coming in. We'll leave all that fine as it is. And build some more train lines. We'll stop there. And we'll build our first residential units. We're going to put some right. I'm going to leave a gap there so that we can run train line up through the gap. Put a residential block there. And I don't know if I can run a train track and power lines in the same area or not. But they need power, so we're just going to plop one right there. That'll give them juice, I think. Yep, there we go. They're good. Residential, industrial, not next to each other, so in theory they shouldn't have any problems. We might want a seaport, seeing as how we are right next to the water. See what I have to do to get one. I think I have to clear a square just like everything else. But maybe not. Yeah, I can't go any further than that. That's fine. Let's see if I could just build it right there. Seaport. Ooh, those are expensive. There we go. Oh, look at that. He's got power, so there shouldn't be any issues there. An airport, rather, should be kind of expensive as well. People are starting to build on those residential. The commercial still not developing. Might be because there's no residential units next to them, so we'll start stacking some more on there. Let's go ahead and put 1, 2, 3. Oh, look at that. That's more people popping up there. Let's do the rail up past these units and make sure that we can actually... Oh, there we go. People are moving in. We'll leave it there. I don't think we have to actually touch every single block. As long as they're in a grid like this, I believe they have adequate access. And I do see people have moved into the far block there and are starting to build on it, so they're not having any issues in that square, at least. One of the commercials is finally developing, so I was right. You do have to have some residential next to them to actually get building. These two still haven't developed, and I'm thinking that's because they're too close to industrial, but it could be something else. So I think we'll do some more rail line this way. And put another block of industrial units next to the ones that we had here. I should have enough power. If we don't have enough power for the city, they usually have a little message pop up that tells us, hey, you got to build another power plant. But the nuclear power plant, which was already so ridiculously expensive, is that way because it's usually adequate to cover your needs for quite a while. All right, so we got that up and running. Let's go ahead and stick another commercial unit right here. People are probably going to start getting antsy for some stuff to keep them occupied, so we can start throwing down some parkland. I'll go ahead and do a full block there of parkland. See if that helps out those groups of people. And we're probably going to be in need of police and fire. We'll go ahead and set those right next to each other so that they can help out the nearby people if they need it. All right, we've done quite a bit of developing. Let's see if we have any warnings about what we need to take care of. The residents of the city are complaining about housing costs. It probably means that the land values of available residential zones are too high or that they are too far from commercial zones. So yeah, we've got plenty of both of those right now. I don't think there's any serious issues there. We do need to power the police and fire departments. Come on, you got juice. I see the power line right here. Don't lie to me. There they go. Oh, we've got our first apartment buildings going in here. All right. How much is the stadium? Oh, that's expensive. I'm not making that much money right now. Hooray! We are now a town, a population of more than 2,000 people. Congratulations! Your village has become a town. Placing residential zones, industrial zones, and commercial zones in balanced numbers will help your city to grow. And I think we are pretty balanced right now. We have 6 residential, 5 industrial, one of them's not actually being developed yet, and 4 commercial. We could do another commercial, I'd say, right up here, and that might help. Where would you like to build your own house? Do you want to live near the residents of your city, or do you want to build your own house in a secluded area away from the congestion? Remember, another election's just around the corner. I don't think it really matters, but we'll go ahead and put it, say, in the corner of this area up here. Right here. Right next to the parkland, because I want that access to. Oh, come on, you're right next to a block. You got plenty of power. Alright, so let's do another commercial right here and then line the backside of this property with residential. And we can put another commercial right in the back, right here. All right, so they show us with a nice balance. We have plenty of residential units, even though the bar in the top right there that says RCI indicates how your levels are doing for each of the 3 blocks. And they're saying that my residential is kind of low. So what I'm thinking is I could put more residential up here. We do want to extend the rail lines just a wee bit. Right there. And stick some more right here. I think we'll do 2 there, and then I'm going to stick a commercial right between them. Now look at this honking unit right here. Alright, so police fund. Oh, I made a tiny bit of money in revenue from taxes. Not very much. I made a whopping $5. So we need to get some additional revenue. I think this is where the game would probably tell you that you need to install a stadium to make that extra money. I'm not 100% certain on that. I'll raise the taxes 2% and watch people go ballistic. They're going to absolutely hate me. Okay, so they already marked out all the stuff that you can't do here. The big one's probably going to be the airport. That's going to be the one that's most expensive, and I absolutely won't be able to afford it. Let's start bulldozing some more land. City's really popping off right now. We're at 5,000 people. I was not expecting this city to get very big in the short time that we're going to look at the game today. It'd be a nice touch if we actually managed to get it up to, say, 10,000 before I called it a day on this episode. So I mentioned that the game, I first learned about it from the strategy guide that Nintendo Power did. There was, and I think we talked about this in the episode for, might have been Ninja Gaiden, the fact that they made a bunch of strategy guides as kind of special releases for customers back in the day. The first round of 4 that they did ones for Final Fantasy, Ninja Gaiden 2. They did one for Super Mario 3, I think. And then they did a 4-player extra, is what they called it, I think is the name of it. And it was basically just mentioning that they had a multi-tap type device for the regular Nintendo. And then it was a brief summary of all the games that would function with the multi-tap. And then they did a second set of, if it wasn't 4, it might have been 5 strategy guides. Those included the NES Atlas, the Game Boy. It was just a guide for Game Boy games. The Super NES, and they had one called Mario Mania, where they basically just had like a bunch of coverage for all the different Mario games that were available up to that point, and I believe it included a full strategy guide for Super Mario World. I might be wrong about that, but I believe it was a full guide. And in the Super NES guide, they actually had a bit of coverage on SimCity, as well as a bunch of games that were available at the time that the Super Nintendo, or at least the development point that the Super Nintendo had reached at that point in time. Let's go ahead and go this way. And we'll build up here. We're going to put some more industrial down here. I'm sure we could probably use some more of that. It looks like the levels are low. Just build a block of 4 right there. See if that's enough. And the people are already whining for more residential. I'd have to probably do a little bit of digging, but I believe I have all of the strategy guides that I just mentioned still. Let's do... see if that's enough to get the people happy. And we'll do a connection point for the power like this, and then we'll do another one there as well, just to make sure there's adequate power going to all these units. Didn't take long for the industrial to get up and running there. There's still some commercial spots that are not active, and what that may mean is if they don't start developing within the next year or so, it may be better to just bulldoze them and get rid of them. Unfortunately, now I'm out of range of building even a stadium, so... Oh! I spoke too soon. That commercial unit is starting to develop. Still not a lot going on in these units here, residential. What that may mean is that they're too close to... Well, okay, I spoke too soon again. Sometimes that means that there's a little bit too much proximity to the power plants or the industrial stuff, and that you're better off getting rid of them and moving them somewhere else. And I believe at any point in time you can bulldoze anything, including really big units like this one here. All right, all of that is building up there. Hooray! I reached 10,000. Cool. City, population of more than 10,000 people. Congratulations, your town has become a city. Solve any transportation dilemmas and reduce the crime rate to keep the citizens happy and the city growing. We haven't heard any serious issues yet, and usually they'll tell you if there's a big one. So what do we want to do next? I'm seeing that the bar in the top right is starting to shrink. The residential, it's up here where my finger's pointing. So that may mean either I have too many residential units or it might mean I don't have enough. Not 100% certain on that. Let's go ahead and build a couple more anyway, because they're not too expensive. Let's see if this alleviates any complaints that people have. All right, plenty of power. I can't imagine it's... Whoa, hey! Looks like someone built a hospital. I think that's what that is right there. This is the symbol for the hospital in this game. Why would they make it as a big plus? I don't know. All right, well, the commercial for these two are going in, and it doesn't look like the top two are going so far. That commercial on the left side here may just have to get bulldozed because no one's using it. Anyway, let's build two down here and see if that doesn't get anything going. SimCity Savings and Loan. SimCity Savings and Loan would like to build a branch office in this city. And here they offer low-interest loans for city improvements. Sounds like a steal. I mean, a deal. Okay. And if it costs more than I have the money to build, then we may not do it. Oh, you don't have to pay anything for it. All right, well, go ahead and stick it here. Interesting. We had some industrial right there in the bottom corner. Wait. SimCity Savings and Loan. Welcome to SimCity Savings and Loan. We are happy to offer $10,000 low-interest loans to those who wish to improve our community. Your payments will be $500 a year for the next 21 years. Would you like to take out a loan? I mean, it's not like I'm going to be playing this long enough to make a difference, so... What is that? Game speed? Whatever. These are the disasters you can cause. I don't know if you can do them right away. Information. That's how you save. Let's see what he says. If the residents of the city are complaining about housing costs, it probably means that the land values of available residential zones are too high or that they are too far from commercial zones. Which, I don't think that's really an issue, but I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. I didn't see how to take a loan. What am I supposed to do here? How exactly do I take the loan? Is there an option up here? What does that do? I'm not sure what that does. I'm guessing that regulates how much your taxes are for the game. All right, let's see. We made a little bit of money from taxes that were collected. Not a ton. And there was a little bit of increase in the transit funds, I think is what the top line is, trans fund. So it looks like we need more residential, and I think that was the big problem that we were facing all along anyway. So let's go ahead and get some residential. Just do a big row of them right there. And go ahead and give them some power and see if this will... Pollution is very high. Not sure what I need to do for that. Also not sure why there's pollution to begin with. There's some units here. Probably don't need to build any more industrial, but maybe I'm missing something. Alright, we can't do any residential in here because they're just not going to develop. But we can build commercial. Alright, we need to build some more rail lines. do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I need to go over a little more. 3. And then we would cut up here. If I didn't have land that I need to bulldoze. Now let's see what they say about the pollution level. Nothing. If the tax rate is too high, the residents will move to other cities. Most of the residents feel that a 7% tax rate is fair. Well, I don't care. I'm trying to build a city here. And I think that went up, right? Maybe? That's their problem, not mine. Alright, I don't know what else I can do. With the funds that I have, we may just have to settle for what it's at right now. 2, 3, stop. No one's building in the... Interesting. I thought I would have solved the residential issue with all the units that I built, but it looks like the residential's still not enough. Well, let's stick another one on the end of each of these and see if that solves it. Also, I need more money, but I'm still not sure how you take it out. Is there a button I gotta hit? What was the... Was it this? Bank. Yep, we'll do that. That's fine. There we go. Now I got the funds. Back to the game. Oh, there we go. Now I can see what the zoning levels for each of these units is. And obviously you want the highest, I think the highest number you can get is 5. So if you get a 5, it's doing really well. So it looks like some of the commercials that I have are really well off, and then some of them are not so great. Industrial, if I'm not mistaken, needs to be as close to water as you can make it, or else it's not going to develop. Alright, so let's build some more residential, since everyone's complaining that they don't have enough housing. And add some rail lines. I thought 10,000 was going to be a pipe dream. If I can get to, say, 20 or 25, that would be amazing. All right, and I think now would be a good time to put in a stadium. Yeah. Big unit, though, so we won't be able to put a whole lot next to it. I'll just put it right here. Ah! People are going to love that. I know it. Now, the question is, do I want to put a commercial? I think a commercial would go right there. That would be nice. And then we'll fill in the rest of the land around it with parkland. Because, you know, the people who go to sporting events are so clean. They never throw trash just wherever they happen to be standing. They're always considerate of themselves and their neighbors. Oh. Alright, doesn't look like a whole lot of development is going on for that one industrial, so maybe if we stick another commercial next to it? Who knows? Alright, so there's building going on. Looks like my levels are still pretty flat. I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe I'm just not building fast enough. Could also be that I need another police and fire department. Why not? And you notice that even though the game keeps telling me that I need more roads, I have not been prevented from doing any of the major development that I've accomplished up to this point. Well, they did say that there was an issue with taxes. I don't know if I can lower the tax rate in the middle of the year. Oh no, they don't have a problem with that. Voice. What does this tell me? Is the mayor doing a good job? Hey, 61% say yes. That's probably really high for what most people would say about their local politician. What are the worst problems? Taxes, which I just lowered a little bit. Crime, so I just built the police station. Pollution, I'm not sure what I can do to fix that. Reduce the number of industrial units, but if I do that, they're probably going to say I don't have enough. Current score is 617. Annual change, it went down. Oh, that's not good. Also, I don't think airports existed in 1903. I'm going to have to double check that. Pretty sure airplanes may not have existed at that point. All right, the city's looking pretty good. Obviously, there's some areas where things could get better, like right here, but I don't know if we have enough time to try to solve that conundrum. Looks like there's never enough residential, no matter what I do. Let's build a little bit more rail lines. We'll do some right here. Let's see if that fixes the development there. Alright, they have power now. Another hospital went in right there. Oh, look at this! This cleared out. They had been developed there, but I guess the people didn't like what I did there. Wonder if that means I have too many commercial. I have a feeling if I had looked at the strategy guide that I had for it before I started the game, one of the things they would have said was like a ratio of residential to commercial units. Now it's starting to develop again. And they probably would have said it's like 2 to 1 for industrial, maybe like 4 to 1 for industrial, because it looks like my industrial is good and high and residential and commercial are still low. Let's see if they got any more tips for me. Actually, let's talk to Dr. Wright. Crime rate will be higher in areas where the land value is low or the population density is high. Check the map and make sure police stations are distributed so that they provide overlapping coverage for high crime areas. Well, let's see how you do that. I don't know. Is there a way to select that? Graph? Here we go. It's gone up, and then it flattened out because I think I put in another police station. Okay. Well. Oh! Tax rate. Alright, so I made a little bit of money, which is okay. The problem is I think I had to pay $500 for my loan, so I may have lost all the extra revenue that I made in the last year. So whatever development okay, I don't need to see it again. Yeah, go away. Go away. There we go. Oh, come on, I want to make it to 25,000. Zoo. Hey, the children of the city need some form of entertainment. How about they build a zoo so they can learn about animals? The income from the zoo will be added to special income. All right. How much does the zoo cost, or is it free? It might be free. We're going to stick it right here. And I think if I manage to hit 25,000 residents, we'll call it a day, because this has been a pretty good episode. Of course, now it looks like the people don't want to finish, or don't want me to get to that 25,000. Can I clear this? All right, perfect. Oh, it went up. We're so close. I don't know if it officially becomes a city if I hit 25,000, or if I'm just imagining things. All right, we'll throw them 3 more residential. Well, one residential and 1 commercial, and see if that doesn't do it. And we'll stick a fire department and a police department somewhere in the dead center of the map and see if that doesn't clear it up. Put right there, and put one right there. Hey, I did it! I went over 25,000. And as soon as I put in the police and fire departments, the land right there cleared out. That's funny. There we go. Sure, there's adequate infrastructure. We have not seen a major incident yet, and I see, ooh, look at these 2 units. I hadn't been paying attention to the center here. Those really exploded. So much so that they merged and became a super building. And same here. Of course, part of that is because they're right next to a stadium. Okay, so we could keep playing. I don't know how much else they would add to the game that we haven't already seen. Most of it would be special buildings, and then maybe some unique incidents that might occur just by accident, like occasionally you'll see firestorms break out, or incidents where the city has to deal with a natural disaster like an earthquake or a tornado that sweeps through, and it ends up destroying a bunch of the property. And you have to just kind of rebuild or bulldoze the damaged sections to try to clean them up. But we've gotten a good look at what this game has to offer for today. I don't know if there's a whole lot else we can do that we haven't already done, so I think we're going to call it here. Let me let the game run while I'm stammering on about the end. Pollution is very high. I don't know what I can do about that. Let's go ahead and do the review phase. We'll do the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is, despite the fact that I didn't read anything about the way that the game worked, and they give you a huge manual. As I mentioned before, it's 85, 86 pages in total. This is a very easy game to grasp. I think they do a good enough job explaining what you need to do to make the game work that there's not a lot of confusion. If you see units that aren't building too well, you know that maybe they don't have enough power, or they're not close enough to something that they need to draw in residents, like special stadiums, parkland. Maybe there isn't adequate access to roadways, or in this case I just did rail lines. Maybe the pollution's too bad, and I don't know what I can do to fix that, except maybe get rid of some industrials. Those are things, and boy, it's really happening fast. I'm going to pause the game. Can I pause it? Can I do anything? People are spilling out. Quickly, slow down. All right, there we go. That's disconcerting. I did really good up to that point, and then the game was like, no, you need to keep working, build more. It's a very easy game to grasp, and I think that may be owed in part to Nintendo's involvement. I've never played the PC original version of this game, so I don't know if it was any different in terms of what they explained to you in-game versus how intuitive some of the designs were for the gameplay. I just know that it seems very easy to figure out. The symbols maybe aren't the most clear, and we'll go to the bad in a second and explain that. But yeah, I think it's easy enough to pick up without having to read the instruction manual, and that's a big plus. The buildings look like they're supposed to. They look like, big commercial blocks or apartment buildings. The stadium has little figures moving back and forth. It's not the most graphically dense game in the world, and part of that is because it's kind of a macro level view of a city, and there's only so much graphical fidelity that the Super Nintendo was capable of at the time. The music's inoffensive. I mean, it's not great, but it's not terrible. As far as the bad, again, some of the symbols in-game, not terribly obvious. The little running man, I obviously, I guess now that's game speed because we're looking at it. I don't know if it would be obvious what the difference is between the little, the little man on the far right here and the magnifying glass. And I don't even know what the magnifying glass is really telling me other than the level of development in each of the squares on the map. I don't know if that's information that really gives me anything to build off of when I see that in-game. Yeah, it would have been nice if they had clearer indicators of how to fix certain problems like pollution. I'm not sure what exactly I have to do to fix that aside from bulldozing industrial if there's too many of those. And the funny thing is I didn't put anything away from the very bottom right corner of the map, and maybe that's part of the problem is I didn't have enough industrial units, and that's why population was starting to decline. But it also could have been pollution, like they said. And again, not sure how to fix that. As far as the ugly, and this is nitpicky, the big problem with simulation games like this is, what's the goal? What is the goal? I mean, I can play and make a really, really big city, but it never ends. I mean, you just play until you're like, all right, I guess this is good, and then you stop on your own. And that's kind of going back to what Broderbund had an issue with when Will Wright brought the game to him and said, hey, can we, publish this? And they were like, we're kind of moving out of that phase. And I think the reason they said that is because this was, he started developing in 83 or 84. And around that time was when the big gaming crash occurred. And that was around the time when most video games didn't end. They just kind of played until you got bored or the game became too difficult and you left. There were no ends for some of those games, and I think the market kind of pivoted towards having a complete beginning and end experience for games. And this was almost like a regression. Yeah, there's obvious progression as you play the game, and there isn't really a losing, a way to lose in this game. You just keep building units and collecting revenue from taxes and whatnot, and eventually your city, if you're doing real well, you'll be able to add unique buildings, and maybe you'll get some accolades, and your main character might get a nicer house. I don't think it ever changes, but maybe it's possible. But it doesn't actually end. You just keep going. And I think that may be, kind of a turn off for certain people. I'm certain that I would not have wanted a game like this when the game initially released. And it was one of those things as I got older, it was like, yeah, I guess I can appreciate a simulation experience, even if there really isn't a way for the game to end, quote unquote. And I can appreciate it more now. I don't love simulation games all that much. I've never played The Sims. Real-time strategy games, which are kind of a branch of this kind of experience because you're building bases and developing units for battle, and it's a long game usually, even though obviously the match does have a defined endpoint where if your military gets wiped out, you lose. They all kind of have design ideas that kind of were initially developed in this genre of simulation games. And this one, this was kind of the archetype for a lot of those games, and no endpoint. It just doesn't end. So I would put that as the ugly. Let's go ahead and give this a score. We do our score in Randars, 1 to 10. I would give this an 8. I do think it's a very good game for what they offer here. Now, obviously, I can't say as a first showing that this is a fantastic, initial offering in the simulation genre, because it's not the initial version. This is the co-developed game that they originally released on PC, and I failed to mention all the different systems that this game came out on PC initially, because it was a ton of them. I could go all day naming all the ones that it came out for on PC before it released on Super Nintendo. And the game design was solid enough that this game ended up spawning an entire genre of simulation experiences. It was a very well-made game. I think it's just catered to a very specific market, and some of the people who wouldn't want to play this game wouldn't want to play any of those games, because they are more a serene experience. It's not a big jolt from, beating a boss or getting a power up and, getting power crazed from, getting stronger as a character. It's build a city and slowly watch it develop, and maybe get a sense of satisfaction that you're not going to get from other experiences that's a little more sedate, and it's a good game, but it's not for everyone. Very well designed. I think it's definitely an 8 Randar game. This is a strong entry in simulation games, and it's still fun today. And I think that's the key to giving it that score, is that if the mechanics in the game were a little bit too clunky, it wouldn't be a fun experience. But this was a good one. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Nubs Collection. As always, I do appreciate each of you watching, and I will see you next time.